Anyways,
Like
alright, let's
that.
get on to the movie reviews. Because we do have a double feature for y'all because, we did miss 1 week. I think, because, what was it? It was Robert's fault, of course, because it's always Robert's fault. He
Right.
missed his own month to do this, and I'm being nice and I'm letting him do this double feature thing because it's the last Tuesday of the month. So let's get
All right.
to their movie reviews. The two movies that we watched this week were Dark Victories and Dark Victory or Dark Victories.
Dark Victory.
Okay, Dark Victory, yeah, starring what's her face, Betty
Betty
Davis.
Davis.
And then the other movie
And
was
also
what was that?
Stagecoach.
Oh yeah, the
And
other
the other
movie was
movie was
Stagecoach,
Stagecoach.
which I think was it John Wayne's like kind of big kind of like leg up to stardom.
I believe that this is one of his this is the film that threw him into stardom.
Right.
Because he's
So
pretty
this was
pretty
the
young in
vehicle
this
that
film.
catapulted him into stardom,
Because he was
that raised him up to be the legend, that we know as John Wayne.
Yeah, I think he was probably in some other films beforehand, but this was
Right.
the film that really kind of catapulted his career.
This is the film that made him.
He's really young in this film.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, I like because when you think of John Wayne, you kind of think of kind of like worn-in like
True
catcher's
Grit.
mitt. When you think of John Wayne's face, you kind of think of worn-in catcher's mitt. But
right.
yeah. Oh, and actually, in Dark Victory, we have a very young, very governor, pre-president Ronald Reagan.
Oh, that's right. What character did he play in that film?
He played Alec.
That's right. I knew I recognized that guy.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's right. That was Ronald Reagan.
It was in the opening credits, dude. Come on, pay attention. Get with it.
I was kind of because I actually watched this film this morning after work, and I fell asleep. I was really tired when I started watching it, and so I had to I fell asleep, and then I woke back up, and I had to rewatch the film. So I missed that part. But yeah, that's right. Alec was Ronald Reagan. That's interesting. Okay, I knew I recognized that character.
Yeah.
Which one do you want to talk about first?
I actually probably watched it. But let's start with Dark Victory because it's kind of a downer.
Okay.
And then we'll end on with Stagecoach because that kind of has a more happy ending.
Right. Okay. And then I figure what we can do is we'll do our reviews or our ratings, and then I was wanting to do of the movies that we watched this month. Which ones did you like? If you want to rank them, I have a list. I already ranked them, so I was kind of curious what your.
Of course you did.
So with Dark Victory, I actually really like this movie. By the way, this was obviously it's starring Betty Davis. She's kind of a socialite,
I just pulled up it on the interwebs. Let me give a quick synopsis. Socialite Judith Traherne, Betty Davis, lives a lavish but emotionally empty life. Riding horses is one of her few joys, and her stable master, Humphrey Bogart, is secretly in love with her. Told she has a brain tumor by her doctor, Frederick Steele, George Brent, Judith becomes distraught. After she decides to have surgery to remove the tumor, Judith realizes she's in love with Dr. Steele, but more troubling medical news may sabotage her new relationship and her second chance at life. Which it does. But yeah, I for the most part enjoyed this movie. It it very much felt, I did recognize a lot of some the certain tropes that you would find in modern kind of romance dramas today, where you have like this girl, and then like there's even like this kind of misunderstanding where she thinks like her best friend is trying to seduce the doctor, and yeah, it's just, and then of course then you have like the complication of the guy who kind of pretends that's annoyed by her, or like hates the girl's guts, but is secretly in love with her. So yeah, so it definitely felt like one of those modern romance dramas. And who knows, and like it could have well have or the tropes could have well have started with this movie, or the this movie is the most famous example of those tropes.
Yeah, I would agree with that. One thing I love the acting in this film was great. Betty Davis was brilliant. I thought she played that part really well, of just kind of this. She was kind of this carefree socialite, did whatever she wanted to do, slept around. I mean, obviously, that it would we didn't see any of that. But it was definitely hinted at that she was kind
Right,
of
it
a
was
whore,
like heavily implied.
right? And uh, but she's has these headaches, and it's like, oh, it's because she the idea that she's kind of like, oh, it's because her lifestyle, she's staying up too late, she's smoking too many cigarettes, she's drinking too much, kind of living it up. And it's like, as you get older, it's like you can't do that stuff as much anymore. And so but it turns out, yeah, obviously she's very sick. And I think when it came to everyone but that doctor, it was all the other guys that were in her life, that were consistently in her life. They were just more of playthings, and like it didn't really matter until this doctor came around, and he
Right, because
matched her.
what's his face,
He
Bogart's
matched,
character. Um,
yeah,
he was, when he does finally confess his feelings for her, he was saying like, oh, all these other men, they wouldn't know what to do with you, they keep, kind of talk big and say like, oh, if I only had a crack at her, I'd make her mine. But they like, if they had you, they would like they wouldn't know how to handle you, not like the way I would. Kind of like,
right.
again, kind of again revealing to Betty Davis's character is like, oh, that how much in love he is with her.
But like the doctor, Dr. Steele, he matched her sassiness. Like he kind of like it was he was able to override her carefree, ridiculous attitude, and like called her out on, essentially, in a lot of ways, called her out on her bullshit. And because of that, I think that's what drew her to him. Um, and uh, but when the news came back, like, yeah, the surgery was successful in the sense, but she still, like, it didn't fully heal everything, and she was gonna die anyways. Probably maybe because they got to it too late. Because
Right.
usually when you're starting to have those headaches, and it's affecting, like, your
Right, and given the
vision.
limitations of medical science or technology at the time, um, I'm sure they did what they could have for her, with their limited capabilities.
Right. And because he had also kind of fallen in love with her and had feelings for her, like he couldn't bring himself to tell her that that's exactly what was going on. And you could see, like, it kind of tortured him a little bit. Like he because she was so excited to be, like, back to normal in a sense.
Hmm.
But in reality, it's like it was just her days were numbered. And
Right. She was on borrowed time, and after she got out of the hospital, and she was feeling fine, and they're having that party, and it broke his heart to know that she again was living on borrowed time, and her days were numbered.
yeah, it was the like I said, I liked all the acting in the film. I thought it was a well acted film. I was engaged, and because you're looking for that miracle maybe to happen in the film where
Right.
maybe she overcomes the disease and she survives, but
Right. And we're
that in the end.
I think where that false hope is like also kind of reinforced because the two do get married, and his whole like because he used to have a surgery practice, but he then moved to Vermont. His original plan was to move to Vermont to do medical research, and but the Doctor Steele's original plan at the beginning of the movie, he was like trying to he was closing up shop. He was getting out of Dodge. He was gonna move up to Vermont, where I think he's from, and he was gonna start doing medical research. But then Judith comes into his life, and he ends up marrying her. And I think after they got married, I think he dedicates his research practice to trying to cure Judith. And I
Yep.
think that's because at the end he gets the telegram from one of his colleagues and says, oh yeah, I think you're on the right track here with this technique or solution. Why don't you come? Why don't you come to New York and we'll talk about it? In conference. And so yeah, so I think we're as the audience we're set up to have that hope because like he's doing research for Judith, so he'll and for sure he'll find a cure for her.
And to
But
be honest, yeah,
but
that was the hope that
spoiler alerts,
I
even though
was
this movie's what like 70 plus years old,
it's 80 years old.
80 years old, 80. Spoiler alert, even though it's 80 years old, um, he doesn't end up finding a cure. And
Yeah, and it's like, but yeah, it's. I'll be honest. Yeah, I was clinging to that hope that like, oh well, maybe we'll have somewhat of a happy ending, but it's in in a way it kind of does because Dr. Steele and Judith end up together, but it's kind of like it's bittersweet because that her end is coming, and they're kind of in a way pretending that it's not going to be there so that they can be happy, and they're both kind of quietly protecting each other from the inevitable. um, and at the end where uh, Judith, I think, in a very unselfish act, is like to because she realizes that her situation has motivated him in a way to like continue his research, and she was the motivating factor. And if she told him that at the end she knows like what she's starting to like it's coming soon. Her death is coming very soon, and is right at the time where Dr. Steele gets that telegram to go to New York City
mm-hmm.
for that conference. And I think had she told him that she was going to be sick, he would lose the momentum that he had trying to find a cure. And so she has her and her friend hide it from him. It's like, do not tell him whatsoever because he will. I think it'll crush him, and it will when he comes back home, obviously. But the fact that she hid it, I think it was a very unselfish act because she realized that um, he had found that motivation to continue to do the research, and he needed to do this conference to maybe gain that. Maybe he goes to this conference and he is gets this extra boost of like inspiration and hears something that like might work, and so that while she may die, he may help cure people like just like her.
Right, and who knows, he might even be able to get some funding so that he can do more research or expand on his research and do like more experiments.
Yeah, because he was
But yeah,
doing it
you
essentially in
at
like
the
this
end you
garage.
at the end you do see a bit of a 180 turn for Judith, and she's no longer the boozy, loose socialite, um, and she becomes like this, and she becomes a dedicated, selfless partner. And the fact that even though like yeah like because the doctor says like, oh yeah, when the time comes, like her eyesight will like fail, and she'll just slip away from she'll slip away. And God, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, and slowly her eyesight started to go, and then she it wasn't even she didn't even cry for herself. It was her friend Anne, I believe it was,
Yeah,
who breaks down into tears because her friend is exhibiting the what is it, the symptom uh, indicating that her end is near. And and so Judith displays this inner strength that that she had, or she's developed since going through the whole ordeal, and marrying the doctor. And so there's tremendous growth for Judith's character, which I enjoyed.
yeah. Well, and that's comparing it to another movie from that we watched this month. Yeah, she because her when the movie starts out, she's kind of a lot like Scarlett O'Hara in a lot of ways. Just kind of this wild, crazy person
Mm-hmm.
that does what she wants and does what she wants when she wants to who she wants. And unlike Scarlet, she does have that like that change. Because you have like Doctor Steele, who's kind of a little bit like maybe not as uh, wild as Rhett Butler is, but they're kind of similar characters in a way, where they
True,
call
true.
out this character on their bullshit. They see right through it. They know who they are. Yet Dr. Steele is able to change Judith in a lot of ways, and um, they complement each other very well. Whereas, what we see with Rhett and Scarlet, like they're always kind of at odds with each other, and Scarlet
Right,
never really grows up. She's kind of a horrible person. um,
right. Even
Whereas
though
Judith actually,
they're compatible, yeah. In the case of uh, Scarlet and Rhett, they were more, even though they complemented each other, they were really not made for each other. In that way, they were like oil and water. They can go together, but then there's not that much cohesion, and it wasn't, and then it was really the I think their child that was like kind of like the emulsifying agent that kept them together.
yeah. Well, and here's the other thing is because I think in a lot of ways, with Scarlet was like she was made for one person. That was Scarlett O'Hara. Like she was always about herself.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like once Judith met Dr. Steele, because Judith was definitely about herself for probably her entire life up to that point. But when
Right.
she
I
met
mean,
Dr. Steele,
she was a kid
she
of a wealthy, business type person, and what is it? Yeah, she had a string of lovers, and Right, she was the only child. That's what I was trying to. She was the only child, so of course, like having all of that attention on a person, has a certain effect.
But one thing I noticed too is like you see the shift in the film too with Judith, where at the beginning of the film it's all about her, it's the horses, it's her friends, all these parties, blah, blah blah blah. But as soon as she meets Dr. Steele, and after everything that happens, like the focus becomes like she's kind of like, oh yeah, hello, yeah, hi, whatever, and she's like always like, oh, Dr. Steele, like she was so solely almost solely focused on him.
Right. Well, I think her initial kind of arm's length, arm's distance, was more about her unwillingness to admit that she was sick or she had this problem. Um, but again, yeah, I think you're right in that it was Dr. Steele who was Dr. Steele was the one that was able to get past her defenses and and see her as the person that she was and who she could be and just see like the good qualities in her.
Right. And it was I don't know, I really like this movie. It was sad, but it's I see why it was nominated for Best Picture. The acting was just fantastic all the
Right.
way through.
Even though Bogart can't do an Irish accent to save his life.
Oh God, it was yeah, his I still love Humphrey Bogart though. I think he's probably my favorite actor.
And that's okay.
This was not his best role, but I mean, it's just like I was like, oh, cool, Humphrey Bogart's in the film. Like it's already cool.
He's been in movies prior to this, right?
Well, yeah, well, another film from
Was
'39 that
Casablanca
we've actually
before
already
this?
reviewed. No, it was after this
Oh, okay.
because we remember from a number of months ago we watched The Roaring Twenties. This is also a film from 1939 that he was in.
Ah, okay.
Um,
Yeah,
I don't
because
know
I
if he
thought it was a
was.
little bit weird because I thought Casablanca came before, and I was like, man, it's really weird that he goes from leading man and then to the side into this supporting character. But
No,
then,
no,
yeah,
no. He 42 was Casablanca, where he was a leading man, and I think that was the movie that really propelled him to be the leading man in a film.
mhm.
But like yeah, because Roaring Twenties, it was James Cagney was the lead, not
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Humphrey Bogart. Humphrey Bogart was the villain in the film.
Right.
Um, and I'm trying to think. I don't know if there was any films that he did prior to '39. I'm pretty sure there is, but I don't know what they are.
And what year was Maltese Falcon?
That was '41. That was before Casablanca.
Okay.
So maybe it was yeah. He was
Okay,
the
yeah,
leading
I was
guy
a
in
little
that too.
confused. I always thought that those two movies were prior to '39, and so I was like wondering,
No,
like,
no,
man, how
no.
does he go from a leading man to like being a side character?
Yeah, no, no. But yeah, no, Maltese Falcon. That's a good film too. But yeah, I'm a big Bogart guy.
Hmm. All right.
So it's kind of nice seeing these earlier films with him before he was Humphrey Bogart.
Yeah, before he was Bogart, and before he there became like what is it? He became part of the lexicon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. For those of you not knowing what I'm talking about, there's a phrase like "don't Bogart," this. And I mean, don't hog, a certain thing, which Humphrey Bogart has been known to do.
Yeah, but hey, you know what? He's damn good at it. So,
All right. Okay, and you said you wanted to wait till the very end for the rating, right?
oh well, we can do the rating for this film now. I was saying like I would at the end I would figure out we since we did 5 films from
Oh,
39,
okay.
like I
Well,
was gonna have you
let's
rank
move
them.
things along because it's getting a little late. Uh, I give this a 4. Easy
Yeah,
4.
I give it that was gonna be my rating too. For I actually like this better than Gone with the Wind. Um,
Most definitely shorter than Gone with the Wind. Sheesh.
well, everything is shorter than Gone with the Wind. It's like I mean, this is like a blink of an eye compared to Gone with
Yeah.
the Wind. um, but no, I liked it just because we kind of think of like some of these old films too, where it's always this happily ever after, and everything is kind of wrapped up nice and neat.
Hmm.
But this film is very dark. It is a well, to the title, Dark Victory. I mean, it's there was a lot of good things that happened in the film, yet in the end, the heroine that we came to know and love died. Um, so it's just it lived up to his name. It's great acting. Um, Obviously didn't win best picture, but it was definitely worthy of a best picture film. And you'll when I rate the films that we watched from 39 this month, you'll see why it's high up there.
All right. All right. Yeah, that's our rating for Dark Victory. I get a 4. Robert gives it a 4. Definitely check this movie out. It's a good one.
It's great,
by
yeah.
Yeah, right now. Well, maybe not right now. Maybe keep watching and then keep watching and then go watch it. But do go watch it. I know we kind of ruined the ending, but it's still a worthwhile watch. So, although
Yeah.
I hear tell there's research done and they found that spoilers don't actually affect I guess the enjoyment people get from watching movies.
I think it depends on the film you're watching too, because in the case, like a movie like Memento, uh, for in one sense, like I think that would have probably seeing that the first time may have ruined kind of the interesting twist that's in there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's also a movie that you can watch multiple times and find something new, like any Christopher Nolan film. Whereas like I think a film where it would be ruined is if like you watched The Sixth Sense. Not knowing the twist makes that film good, whereas I don't know if it would hold up if you already know what the twist is.
Mm.
And I don't know because I haven't seen it very often,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that may have ruined the film had you known that was the twist.
Mm. I see. Okay.
But it's a good thought experiment. I actually haven't really thought about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not sure how, you know, airtight it was or it is, but I mean, that's just what I hear. Like, spoilers for movies don't actually, uh, or don't have as big of an effect as people believe. But yeah, Dark Victories or Dark Victory, go check it out. Yeah, on
Definitely.
to let's keep things moving with the last review for tonight. And that movie is Stagecoach. which, as we hinted at before, is the career making movie for John John Wayne.
This all was it. This movie also had John Carradine, which is the dad. He was the patriarch of the Carradine family. So we all know David Carradine, who
Right. Oh, really?
yeah, that's his dad. He was the guy that played the that Southern gentleman.
Oh,
That's John
really?
Carradine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The card player.
Yep. That's John Carradine.
Huh. Who'd have thunk it? All right. Let me. I'll just give the synopsis here real fast.
And I believe that this we didn't talk about what Dark Victory was nominated for, but this movie was nominated for Best Picture among with many other nominations, and I think this one won for Best Score, musical score.
Mm-hmm.
It won a couple of awards. I think one of them was like full musical score, whereas Wizard of Oz won for like best song and set design. I believe
Mm-hmm.
I kind of drawing. I'm forgetting how that went because I know there's several musical um, awards that you can win.
Musical awards.
Well, sorry, as far as like Academy Award
Oh,
music
yeah, 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 yeah,
awards.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I know there's several music
yeah, 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 yeah.
categories.
That's yeah. Okay. Really quickly then. Yeah, it was nominated for Best Actor and won for Thomas Mitchell. Was nominated and won Best Music Scoring. Nomination: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Art Direction, Best Cinematography, Black and they had a separate category for Black and White.
I guess so. Well,
Hmm.
because if you think about it, in '39, because we watched two color films from '39, one would be Gone with the Wind and The Wizard of Oz, and maybe
True.
at that time it was a separate category.
Yeah. Yes, and Best Film Editing nominated. Okay. Yeah. All right. The quick synopsis on this film: John Ford's landmark Western revolves around an assorted group of colorful passengers aboard the overland stagecoach bound for Lordsburg, New Mexico in the 1800s. An alcoholic philosophizer, a lady of ill repute, a whore, uh, and a timid liquor
Dallas.
salesman are among
Yep.
the motley crew of travelers who must contend with an escaped outlaw, the Ringo Kid, and the ever-present threat of an Apache attack as they make their way across the Wild West.
This is this is definitely a wild assortment of characters in this film. I have to say,
What was that?
um, it was a wild assortment of characters because uh, everyone kind of had their own story and their own like background,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't necessarily go too heavy into any of the backgrounds per se.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to kind of decipher it through the dialogue and through some of the innuendo that was through the film.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, like the Dallas, who was the whore, as you called
The
her.
whore. But yeah, it's like,
Um,
didn't it turn out that she wasn't even a whore?
I mean, she had a reputation for being a kind of one of those people, and she was looked down on. But the Ringo Kid, who also was, if you really think about it, he was kind of a person of ill repute as well, and so it makes sense that
Well, yeah, because he
okay,
was the
I'm an
outlaw.
outcast, you're an outcast, and they kind of gravitated towards one another. And he was the only person that treated her with respect. Everyone
Or
else kind
treated,
of
yeah,
like
or treated her like a lady.
exactly. You had the other lady who um what was it? What was her name? She was the wife of that soldier that she was trying to see.
Yeah,
Um, Miss Mallory was her name.
Mallory,
I
Mrs.
can't.
Mallory. Yeah,
Yeah. You had her. You had this crooked bank teller.
yeah, banker guy.
You had, yeah, you had
Gatewood.
the drunk doctor. You had the drunk doctor, the whiskey salesman. Um, let's see. You had the cop or the sheriff, and
Yeah,
then you had
the marshal.
the,
Yeah, the stagecoach driver. Of course,
who
yeah, the
was
Ringo Kid.
yeah. It was like I said. You had all these characters, and you kind of had to. Nothing was ever explicitly told, yet you were able to kind of decipher kind of what was going on through just the dialogue, and I part of me found it a little confusing at first, but like as you went through the movie, it's like okay, stuff began to reveal itself through the dialogue. And it's like okay, and you used your imagination and you pieced things together as far as the character development went, and finding out who the bad guys were, who the good guys were, who the questionable characters were, and I I don't know. What do you think about the film, Andy?
Um, uh, it had. I couldn't put my finger on it until just now, but for some reason it had like a very like Orient Express kind of vibe.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit. Yeah, that's a pretty apt description of it, actually. Now that I think
Yeah, I mean,
about it,
I couldn't put
uh,
my finger on it until just now, and I was as you were talking. But yeah, like just like this kind of like motley crew of people. Again, like you have the law, you have the lawman, you have the dashing rogue, you have kind of the the dubious kind of gentleman who you think is has like an angle. You have like the bumbler, you have like the bumbler and like the drunk doctor, and then you have like the kind of like the meek. It's a very motley crew of people, and
and
then
everyone has their own agenda that they're trying to accomplish.
right,
Uh, they're all going to the same place, yes, but they all have their own mission to accomplish in a lot of ways,
right,
and
and
it's and everyone's like kind of very like skeptical of one another, yet they all have to stick together and help each other to get to where they're trying to go.
right,
So you're never really like in the movie. You're never really like settled as far as like who can I trust, who can't I trust. Yet we all have to trust each other to get to this destination.
mhm, right, and it's interesting because even though John Wayne's character, the Ringo Kid, he's supposed to be the outlaw. Um, you come to realize, he's a pretty affable person, and he's generally liked amongst the community, and even
Yeah,
the marshal, he's not just trying to bring him in for the sake of justice or reward, but he has a connection to him. The Ringo Kid and his dad, or the Ringo Kid's dad and him were friends. And so
right,
he's just looking out for his friend's son.
right, and he
And what
actually
he's
feels
really
that
trying
the
to
same.
do is keep him from seeking revenge, because there was another what is it? like cowboy, and I mean that like as someone who like a ranch hand, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Another ranch hand who kills the Ringo kid's father, and he is looking to settle the score, as it were. And the marshal is really just trying to stop him from carrying out his revenge, and then having to then arrest him and send him to prison. Well, I think we got disconnected.
I hear you. No, we're good.
Oh, okay. Oh no, I meant the
Yeah.
stream. The stream went down for a second.
Oh, did are we back? Are we good?
Yeah, we're okay. We're good.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, you had that, and it's yeah, it was this weird like yeah, there were certain people that were friends with one another. There was people that hated one another. Because you had the Doc Boone, who's a drunk who's friends with the quote unquote prostitute Dallas, who's hated by the Southern gentleman because he was a Confederate and the doctor was a Union guy. He fought for the Union
Mm-hmm.
because it's only like 20 years after the Civil War ended. So yeah, it was this a lot of moving parts, a lot of crazy cast of characters who all had their own agenda, yet they were forced to kind of be a faction together to survive. And that's kind of like what made the movie good. And it's yeah, it's kind of hard to pinpoint this how I felt about the movie just because of that. I liked it, yet at the same time like I need to watch it again to kind of get the full scope of what everything that was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like certain people that I thought were not quite so good actually ended up being good, and some of the people I thought were maybe not so good ended up being decent guys. So it's it's definitely something I'll have to watch again. Um, but yeah, it's kind of a straightforward in as far as plot goes, not necessarily character development, but plot. It's pretty straightforward, like kind of a cowboys and Indians western film. It's not a
Right.
spaghetti western. It's not like a cheap like kind of run of the mill western. It has a lot of complications, but it's fairly straightforward. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm. I'd agree with that.
Um, I thought the acting was fantastic in the film. I think all the characters did a great job. Um, I John Wayne definitely stands out in this film.
Mm-hmm.
He's not the I don't think I would consider him the lead, but he definitely stands out, and I see like we kind of I think there comes a time where we think of John Wayne as not a joke, but it's like, oh, he's the Western guy,
Right.
and
We view him kind of as an anachronism.
right, but John Wayne he's a really good actor. Um, he's not just the Western guy. He had that the depth of range that he brought to the Ringo Kid in this film is like you cheered for him. Yeah, he's the rogue. He's the quote unquote villain, but you want him to win.
Right.
You want him to like to get what's the justice that he deserves. He's trying to he has a sense of honor and a code, and
Right. I mean, yeah, he tries to avenge his father and I think brother's murders by going after the guy and like his brothers who who killed them, and so uh, you definitely empathize with him. But yeah,
And the
he
other thing
brought
is,
he there was a subtleness to his performance where um, you just you were just really feeling his character, and like the heart that he had, and the compassion that he had for others, like for Dallas, and for everyone on the stagecoach. Um, even when he was you know trying to escape that one time during the middle of the movie, it wasn't necessarily for selfish reasons in that it wasn't so that he can just go and kill those guys, but kill those and get revenge. But it was for him and Dallas to go and start a new life,
right,
right?
and
I think a more cynical person could be like, oh no, for sure he's gonna go and get revenge, first and then get the girl. But but the way that John Wayne plays it, you genuinely believe that he's escaping so that them two can be together, not so that he can get revenge.
he felt very. It felt like he was a very selfless person. He
Right.
it wasn't he wasn't trying to accomplish what he was trying to accomplish just for himself at the expense of others. It was more of he had he had to do this because there was justice that needed to be done so that he could live that life and provide for that life for Dallas and the people that he cared about.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that was like I said that I I'll say this is probably the uh, I have a much deeper appreciation for John Wayne after seeing this film.
Mm. Yeah, and I mean, if nothing else, he has the coolest entrance of of anyone in cinema.
That's true.
You know, it's like that dolly shot and like the glamour lighting. It's just like him with the Winchester and like the saddle and under his arm. It's just like it's like it's Americana right there, right? It
Yeah,
embodied in John Wayne.
yeah, definitely. God, yeah, he it. I like I said, I actually I'm probably gonna be watching a lot more John Wayne films now after watching this, just because he I see why so many people like his films.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I honestly haven't even seen that many John Wayne films, and I know we kind of like, I'm guilty of this. I've dumped on him like for some of the more questionable choices, like him playing Genghis Khan, even though he's
That yeah, that I'm gonna watch that at some point, but yeah, that seems a little like maybe a little bit out of his purview.
right. Yeah, just maybe it's like yeah. I think that was just he was reaching just a little bit too far out of his range. Um, but until but I want to believe that um, his movies are like Clint Eastwood movies. In that you can't go wrong when watching a Clint Eastwood movie. You just can't.
Right.
I've seen a lot of them, and it's just like you just can't go wrong with Clint Eastwood.
Oh, Clint Eastwood's great.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like it's the same way I feel about Charlton Heston, uh, and I can see why so many people love John Wayne too. It's kind of that same thing. It's like I don't know what it is, but there's a certain charisma to him as an actor that it draws you in. And after seeing Stagecoach, I felt that like I get it. I finally get it why people love John Wayne, and this is the film that did it for me.
Mm. So
But other than that, there's really not much else to say about the film. It like I said, it's a short. It's not that long. It's only an hour and a half. It's pretty straightforward. The story is really, it's not necessarily the plot of the movie. It's the characters.
right, right, right.
That's the depth of the film, is the character
Hmm.
interaction. That's what you want to pay attention to. Um, and all the actors are, I think, are great. They did a great job. You feel like they're. I mean, the comic relief was definitely Doc Boone and the was it Mr. Peacock, who they kept like mispronouncing his name, which
Yeah,
it kind of
Hancock
reminded me.
and
It reminded me of Blazing Saddles with Headley,
oh yeah,
where
Headley.
they kept mispronouncing his name.
Yeah,
Which I bet you that is what Blazing Saddles, like the inspiration for Headley Lamar, they got from Mr. Peacock, where they kept mispronouncing his name, and he kept like correcting them, but nobody paid attention.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Speaking of deja vu all over again, here's another here's another one. But yeah, I those two characters together were definitely the comic relief.
Hmm.
To give kind of like a light and kind of the, because the situation is very dark. It was a very heavy situation that all the characters were in, but
Hmm.
those two provided. They were kind of a great comedic duo that played well off of each other,
Right.
and I like this film a lot. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, just quickly about the comic relief. Thinking about it, it was kind of reminiscent of Abbott and Costello,
Yeah,
or just like the
in a lot
the
of
the
ways it was.
archetypes, like the archetypes that they're playing.
Yeah,
Yeah, very in the style of Abbott and Costello.
I could definitely see that.
Mm.
Anything else you want to talk about Stagecoach, or should we give our rating and then our ratings of
Yeah, no,
everything?
that's all I had to say. That's all I have to say about that movie. Let's get into the rating.
I'm gonna give it a I'm gonna give it a 3.5.
3.5.
Uh, yeah, 3.5, mainly because I think this, like I said, the story is a little bit, yeah, simplistic, but like the where the meat of the story is between the character interaction. Um, and I'll definitely watch this movie again. But yeah, it's has its flaws, but overall, like it's a, I think everyone should watch it. If you love westerns, you're gonna love this film.
Mm.
But it's so much more than just a cowboys and Indians western. It's way more than that. So I think I see why this film was nominated for Best Picture and why it did win some of the awards that it did win.
Hmm.
Um, it's a good film.
Agreed. As for me, I think I'm gonna give this a 3.
You're gonna give it a
I'm
3.
gonna give it 3. Not to say that I didn't enjoy this movie. I definitely did enjoy this movie, but yeah, I just because I think beyond like the character interactions that there's a much there to this movie really. And as impressive as the scenes are, where there is like the interaction of the characters, I just think it isn't enough for a feature length movie.